We're holding Parshas Vayera Sheni. It's Perek Yudches Pasuk Tes Vov. The pasuk says, "Vatichachesh Sarah Lemar." We just learned now about how Hashem tells Avram Avinu and Sarah how they're going to have a child, and the pasuk says, "Vatichachesh Sarah Lemar," and Sarah, after Avram, as the Ramban says, was disproving and telling Sarah off, kiviyachol, for laughing. So the pasuk says, "Vatichachesh Sarah Lemar." Sarah denied, saying, "Lo tzachachti," I did not laugh. Why did she deny laughing? Ki yareya, because she was scared. She was scared. Vayemer, what did Avram say? Loi, no, ki tzachakta, you did laugh. Now Rashi says in Tesvav, Ki yareya ki tzachakta. So Rashi says ki, the first ki. If you notice, it says ki twice. It says ki yareya, and then it says ki, but it has different meanings. Ki arishain, the first ki in the pasuk is meshamish deloshin deha. It's used as but, which means sheneisen tam ledavar. It's a reason. Vatichachesh Sarah. Why did Sarah laugh? Lefi shiyara, because she was scared. Now, Hasheni, the second time it says ki, mishamish beloshin ella. You use ki as but. Vayemer loy kidvarecha hu ella tzachakta. In other words, Avram told Sarah, not like you're saying, but rather you laughed. Shamar Rabbi Seinu, because our rabbis tell us that ki mishamish ba'arbo l'shenis. That ki l'shenis. Ki could be used. Okay. Now, pasuk Tezayin, the pasuk says, "Vayakumu misham anoshim," and the men got up from there. The malachim left Avram Avinu's house. Vayashkifu al pnei Sodom, and they looked with an evil eye because they were going to destroy Sodom. Avram hoylech imam l'shalcham, and Avram went with them to escort them. Rashi says, "Vayashkifu kol hashkafa shebemikra l'ra." Whenever it says the word hashkafa, yashkifu, it always denotes something bad. Chutz ma'ashkifu mimein kodshecha, except for when it says by Videi Meisers on the 4th year of the Shvis for Shemitah, after the person set aside Meiser. So the pasuk says, "Hashkifu mimein kodshecha," look from your abode, look from your holy place. Why? L'chayira, Rashi just said that Hashkifu is always a lashon l'ra. So Rashi says, "Shegadol koyach matnas aniyim," that the giving to poor is so strong, shehoifech midas harigas l'rachmim, that usually hashkifa means bad, but the reason why we use hashkifa by the Videi Meisers is because that the giving to the poor people can change the midas of anger to rachamim. Pasuk. Okay, so Rashi says l'shalcham. What does it mean l'shalcham? So Rashi says this shiluach is an inyan of like levia, is an inyan of like escorting. Avram went with them, lil avosim, to escort them. After he heard the psura teva that he's going to have Yitzchak, he still did not recognize that they're malachim, because he thought that they were actual guests, and therefore he escorted them. Now, pasuk Yud Zayin, the pasuk says, now Hashem is about to destroy Sodom, or he wants to destroy Sodom. Hashem Omar, which means, and Hashem said, Hashem thought, am I going to cover up? Am I going to conceal from Avram what I'm about to do? So Rashi says, what does it mean hamechasa? B'tmiya. You have to use this you have to read this as a question. Asher ani oisa, what I'm going to do, b'stoim in Sodom. Rashi says, Loi yafa li lasis davar zeh shalei midaitei. It's not proper, it's improper for me to do this thing without his knowledge. First Rashi says that I gave him this land, and these 5 cities which I'm about to destroy really belong to Avram. Shenem, like it says, Gvul HaKnani Mitzidin Be'echa Stema V'Amera. At the border of the Knani was from Sidon, as you come to Sodom and Amera. Now, so and Rashi says further that Karasi Oise Avraham, I called him Avraham, Av Hamain Goyim, which means that he is the father of the multitudes of nations. So first of all, these towns belong to him, and he's also the father of these of the Goyim. Ashmin this idea of I'm going to destroy his sons without informing the father, Shu Oyavi, who loves me. So Pasuk Yechez, the Pasuk says, V'Avram haya yiyeh l'goy gadol v'atzum, and Avram will become a great and powerful nation. Nivlechu voy, kol goyei haaretz, and all the nations of the world will be blessed in him. Rashi says, V'Avram haya yiyeh. What does that mean? Mikra acher. This is according to the Medrash, Zeicher Tzadik Livracha. The mention of righteous man is for a blessing. Since we mentioned Avram, Berchoi, we bless him. Pshutai, the simple explanation is, V'chimimenu ani ma'alim. Am I going to conceal from Avram what am I about to do? He is dear to me to become great nation, and through him will be blessed the nations of the earth. Now, Hashem says that Avram should be blessed. Why? Ki adaitiv, because I know, or I cherish. Why do I cherish him? Lemana sheyitzav es banav es beisi acharov, because he commands his sons and his household after me. V'shamru derech Hashem, and they keep the way of Hashem. Lasis stoku mishpat, to perform righteousness and justice. Leman havi Hashem al Avram, in order that Hashem bring upon Avram, Esa Shadiber Alav, that which he spoke concerning him. Now, Rashi says, what does ki yadaitiv mean? Lashon chiba, yadaitiv is an expression of love. K'may moida leisha, like it says, a kindsman, a moida of her husband. Halei boyaz midaitanu, and now boyaz, our kinsman. V'ediacha b'shem, and I shall know you v'ediacha by name. Now, Rashi says, "V'omnam ikar lashon kulam ein el lashon yediyah." But in fact, yedaitiv is the primary meaning of them. All is none other than the expression of knowing. Shemechaviv es ha'adam mikorvei esle v'yediyah makirei, which means that a person loves. For one loves a person, he draws him near to himself, and he knows him, and he is familiar with him. Now, why do I love him? Why do I love Avram? Because he commands his sons concerning me to keep my ways. So Yadaitiv is a lashon of cherishing. Why does he cherish Avram? Because he commands his children to go in his ways. Now, the Rashi says, if you're going to explain as the Targum, the Targum says, I know about him that he will command his sons. So the word leman doesn't really fit in the sense of the verse, because the Torah, based on the Targum, the Torah didn't have to say the word leman. Yitzave, because he commands lashon hayve, this is a present tense, in accordance to the so would Eov do. So Yitzave is a lashon of presence. Leman havi, in order that Hashem bring, kachu mitzav levanim, so would he command his sons. Shimru derech Hashem k'dei shiyavi Hashem al Avram, keep the way of Hashem in order that Hashem bring upon Avram. Al beis Avram leinemar ela al Avraham. It doesn't say on the house of Avram, but it says on Avram. This teaches us, kol hamaimid ben tzaddik, anyone who raises a righteous son, kilo inimes, is like he never died. Vayem Hashem pasachov, Vayem Hashem says, since the cry of Sodom and Amora has become very great, and since their sin has become very grave. Now Rashi says, what does it mean by Vayem Hashem? El Avram shasakasher Omar. Hashem said, Avram, for he did as he said. Hashem said, I'm not going to conceal from Avram. Kidabo, what does it mean? It became very great. Wherever Rabba appears in the Teda, the accent is on the last syllable. because they are translated great, or becoming great. But on this, the syllables on the reish, because it already become great, as I've explained. As I said, now it came to pass as the sun had set, your sister-in-law has returned. So Rashi, Pasuk Chav Aleph. Pasuk says, Hashem says, Erado no ve'ero. I will descend and see. Whether according to her cry, which has come to me, they have done. And if not, I will know. So Rashi explains, no. What does it mean, I will descend? This teaches us a lesson. Obviously, Hashem knew what was going on. So why does Hashem have to say, I will go down? So this teaches us that a dayan, judges, should not decide capital punishments unless they see they have to see what's going on. They have to go on the site and the crime and the investigation. Everything, as I explained in the Deit Haflaga Parsha in Perek, and over there by Neach. Now, another explanation is, I will descend to the end of their deeds. In other words, to fathom the results thereof. What does it mean? Their cry, Shel Medina, of the land. Which has come to me, they have done. And if they remain in the rebellion, I'm going to wreak destruction to them. But if they do not remain in their state of rebellion, I will know what I will do to punish them with suffering, but I will not destroy them. Similarly, we find this in another place. But now leave off your ornaments from yourself, so that I may know what to do to you. And therefore, therefore there's a pause marked by the cantillation sign of a psik between asu and kala, in order to separate one word from another. So that's one shot. The Chacham, however, interpreted hakitzakasa, which means as follows: There was this is referring to the cry of a certain girl whom they killed with an unusual death because she gave food to a poor person, as the Gemara in Sanhedrin says. And over there, the Gemara says that there was this girl who had some kindness on someone who was very hungry, and she gave bread. She hid her bread in her kad shel chavis, in like a pouch of water, and she tried to disguise that she's just drinking water, and she gave bread to this person, which was, of course, very prohibited in that town. And what they did was they wrapped her with different materials. They burnt her. They covered her with honey, and bees came and stung her until she died. So that's what Hashem says. That I heard, according to the second shot, I heard the cry of this girl. Pasuk of Beis, the pasuk says, "Vayifnu misham ha'anoshim vayilchu Sodom." The men turned from there and they went to Sodom. Va'Avram idenu eimid lifnei Hashem, and Avram was still standing in front of Hashem. So Rashi vayifnu misham, and the men turned from there. Mimakom shavram leave Hashem, from the place to which Avram had escorted them. Va'Avram idenu eimid lifnei Hashem, and Avram was still standing there. Va'lo halach la'amid lefanav, but is it not that he did not go stand before him? Rather, Hashem came and said, because the cry of Sodom and Amorah have become great. It should have said that Hashem was still standing by Avram. Rather, you have to, it has to be written, so he says that there's a, whatever this means, there's a scriptural, you have to amend pshat over here. Okay. Chav Gimel. Vayigash Avram Vayemer. And Avram approached and said, Ha'af tispat tzadikim Rasha, will you even destroy the righteous with wicked? Rashi says, Vayigash Avram Matzina Ha'gashal Machama. We find the expression approaching for war. Vayigash Yev Gemer. And Yev drew forward. Va'gashal Epios Vayigash Elav Yehuda. And you find approaching for for asking Rachmanis. And Yehuda approached him, and also you find Hagasha L'Tfilah. So you find Hagasha L'Machama, you find Hagasha L'Farpius, and you find Hagasha L'Tfilah, like it says, Vayigash Eliyahu HaNavi, and Eliyahu the prophet came near. It teaches us that Avram approached to speak harshly when he requested justice, so he came with a Muhammadic way and a Hagashidic way, and to daven. Ha'af tispe, will you destroy? Hagam tispe, which means will you also destroy? The Targum shel Unkelis, and according to the translation of the Targum, Unkelis, Shetirgum Eloshen Dreiges, he explains this expression of wrath, anger, Kach Pirushay. This is the interpretation. Ha'af yasi'acha shetispe tzadikim rasha, will your anger entice you that you should destroy the righteous with the wicked? So Avram says, Ulai yesh chamishim tzadikim b'seichir. Perhaps you will find 50 righteous men in the midst of the city. Ha'af tispe v'leisisa lamakim. Will you destroy and not forgive the place? Laman chamishim tzadikim asher b'kirbim. For the sake of these 50 righteous people who are in its midst. Rashi says, what is it? What's the cheshbon 50 tzadikim? Rashi says, Asara tzadikim the whole krach ukrach, 10 righteous men for each city. Ki Hashem ki hei mekemes yesh, because there were 5 places. Chalil alach. So Rashi says, what does it mean? So weiter. Pasuk Chavei. Chalil alacha masis kadavar zeh lahamis tzadikim rasha. Far be it for you to do such a thing like this, to put death the righteous with the wicked. So that the righteous would be like the wicked. Chalila alach. It's forbidden. It's a chalila for you. Hashefet kol haaretz liyasa mishpat. Will the judge of the entire earth not perform justice? So Rashi says, what is chalila lacha? And if you're going to say liyatzilu atzadikim esar hashem, and if you're going to say that the tzadikim will not save the wicked, lama tamas atzadikim. So why should you kill the tzadikim? Chalila lacha. So Rashi says chulin hu lacha. Chalila is an expression of profane. They're going to say this is the craft of Hashem. Sheitiv HaKoil, he washes away everything. Tzadikim Rishayim, righteous and wicked people. Kacha Sisa, L'Deir Hamabel, L'Deir HaFlaga. This is what Hashem did by the generation of the flood and the generation of the Haflaga. Kadavar Azel, Leihuv, Leikietzabay, neither this nor anything similar to it. Chalil L'Chol, Le'ilam Haba, for the world to come. Hashevit Kol Haaretz. Actually says Nokut b'chataf patach hey shel hashefet. The hey of hashefet is vowelized. The chataf patach lashon tmiya, which is an expression of wonder. Chimi shehu shefet liyasa mishpat emes, which means will he who judges not perform true justice? Pasach v'avayim Hashem im emtzes v'steim chamishim tzadikim b'seicha. Hashem said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous men in the city, v'nasasi l'chol hamakim ba'avurim, I will forgive the entire place for their sake. Rashi says, im emtzes b'steim l'chol hamakim l'chol hakrachim. Sodom refers to all the cities. But since Sodom was like the metropolis and the most important of all of them, the Torah ascribes the tzaddikim dafka to them, but it means for all 5 cities. Avram answered and said, behold, now I have commenced to speak to Hashem, and although I am dust and ashes. Rashi says, "Vanechi offer ve'efer." What did Avram Avinu mean by saying "Vanechi offer ve'efer"? I was already fit to be dust at the hands of the kings, ve'efer Nimrod, and ashes at the hands of Nimrod. If not for the mercies that stood by me. This is I am willing. And Moshe consented. Perhaps the 50 righteous men will be missing 5. Hasashchis b'chamisha kol ha'ir. Will you destroy the entire city because of 5? Vayera Hashem said, "Ashchis, I will not destroy if you will find 45 tzaddikim." Rashi says, "Hasashchis b'chamisha v'alei hein tes the whole krach. Were there not be 9 for each city? V'ata tzaddikai shel olam tistaref imayim, and you, the righteous one of the world, will be counted with them." Pasuk of tes v'yesav eidaber elo vayimar, and he continued further to speak to them. Ulai Vayera, and Avram said, Ulai Yemotsun Shamar Boim. Perhaps 40 will be found there. Vayera and Hashem said, Le'esa, I will not do Bavor HaArboim for the sake of the 40. Rashi says, Ulai Yemotsu Shamar Boim. Maybe perhaps 40 will be found. Yemotu Dalat HaKrachim, and 4 cities will be saved. V'chein Lamed, and 30. Yatzigo Gimel Mehem. 30 will save 3 of them. Oy Chof, or 20. Yatzilu Beis Mehem will save two of them, a yud or one, yatzil echad mehem, will save one of them. Pasuk Lamed, Vayera, and he said, Al no yichar la'adonai v'adat beira, please let Hashem's anger not be kindled. Ula yimatzu shama shleishim, perhaps we will find 30. Vayera le'aseh, and Hashem said, I will not do it. Mem tisham shleishim, if you find 30. Vayera, and he said, Hini no hayalti l'daber, behold, now I have desired to speak. El adonai ta Hashem, ula yimatzu shama esrim, perhaps you will find 20. Vayera le'ashris, and Hashem said, I will not destroy. Bavor esrim, for the sake of the 20. Hayalti rotzisi, I have desired. Kamay vayel Moshe, and Moshe was willing. Pasuk Lamed Beis v'hine Vayera, and he said, Al no yichar la'adonai v'adaber sapam. Please let Hashem's anger not be kindled another time. Ula yimatzu sham asara. Perhaps you will find 10 there. Vayera, and he said, Le'ashros bavor asara, I will not destroy for the sake of 10. So Rashi, Ula yimatzu sham asara. Rashi says, Ala pachas lebikish, for fewer than 10 he did not ask. Amar derem abel hayeches. He says because the derem abel had 8 people. Neach ubanav and Hashem. Neach, his children and their wives. And they were not able to save their generation. And for 9 together with Hashem, he already asked, but he did not find. And Hashem went when he finished the daber Avram to speaking to Avram. Avram shelved them came in. Avram returned to his place. Since the defender was silent, the Dayan left. Avram shoved them came in. The judge left. The defender left. And the prosecutor is accusing. And therefore the Torah says, and the 2 angels came to Sodom to destroy. Hashras to destroy Sodom.